Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen. My name is Josh, and across the table is, of course, Mr. Nate Newton. Nate, how are you, sir?
Battling the allergies right now, bud. Feels like there's just like mud in my eyes from all the pollen that's around right now. But with that being said, the valley is fucking gorgeous right now.
It's amazing.
Dude, bright green, white on the hills. It's badass, but I'm dying.
65.
Yeah.
Clear skies.
Oh, dude, the motorcycle
every day.
riding has been so fucking good.
Has it? No one will let me on the back.
Yeah. I told you got to get on the front facing me. Then I'll let you on.
I don't know where to put my legs.
Yeah. Just dangle them out there, bud. Here's the stabilizer as we go around the turns.
I look like fucking training wheels.
Yeah, right.
I'll just put roller skates on. We all met up Sunday for your birthday.
Yeah, it was a good ride.
BC.
Yeah.
Where did you guys go?
So we went around the backside of Washoe. We did it last year for my birthday ride. So last year there was like 15 bikes or something like that. And this year there was only 3, which was actually pretty cool. Shit. It's a lot easier to ride with a smaller group. We went around the backside of Washoe. There's this cool little bar back there that's got a bunch of mounted like antelope and muley deer heads and all this other shit. So we went in there, checked that out for a minute, and then we went up Geigert. And that Geigert's like my favorite fucking ride around here. It's the transitions are really smooth and fluid, and you can haul ass through there. We already did we did a run up there a couple weeks ago to check out to see what the sand looked like after the winter. You want to go kind of scope that shit out before you go start hauling ass on those roads. So I mean, like on Street Vibes. There's a couple people usually die on Geigert. Somebody doing something stupid at VC and gets blacked out drunk and rides their bike back down to Reno and don't make it.
No, and especially coming down Geiger.
Yeah,
it's
a fast ride.
It's a fast ride. Mm-hmm. It's a completely different experience than coming up Geiger. Mm-hmm. Those turns will sneak up on you.
Oh yeah.
And there's some that are, fucking 200 degree.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're not quite hairpins, but they're damn near.
Yeah, they're moving. And Highway 4 is like that too. Ebbets Summit. We lost a buddy last year on that one. But same thing. The turns just come up quick. If you're coming down it, it's a whole other creature than going up it. You were pulling 60 miles an hour going up that thing, but coming down, you're not going to do 60 miles an hour in it. The turns they act differently when you're coming downhill.
Yeah. So does the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Because Ebbets 1-lane road for a good long ways. So you get some asshole up there that's fucking around on their phone. They're not paying attention, even though you're on a bike. They push you off to the side.
Yeah.
And, definitely try to take their mirror off while you go by. But
and there's parts of Geiger where if you get off the shoulder, you're hitting a cliff, a bluff wall.
Well, especially even if you're on a bike, dude. Even if you hit a guardrail, if you go over the guardrail, you got a long way till you fucking realize you made a mistake.
I've seen the old Bugs Bunny commercials.
Yeah, right.
Wile E. Coyote did that shit a lot. I went through there, I think it was last fall, and a Jeep, this completely decked out Jeep, the big fatties sticking out a little too far, and clipped one of those rock walls on a curve, and the thing was on its top side, and it was all fucked up.
Yeah, there's not much room to wreck over there.
There's not. Yeah. It's not a forgiving landscape.
Well, and I think where people fuck, because we do this too, dumbasses or whatever, but there's a lot of open sight lines for some really windy turns, and so if you're stuck behind somebody that's putting along, we're passing on double yellows, but you got to be smart and gauge the distance and speed and all that, and make sure the whole thing is completely clear. But I can see where people get ahead of themselves on that shit, because I've done that where I've hit the throttle and I've seen a car and I'm like, we're gonna back off. We're not. Probably could have made it, but let's not tempt fate.
Yeah. Well, you've got to slow down so fast going in.
Yeah.
And maybe on a crotch rocket if you're by yourself.
Right. Yeah. If you don't have a rider or something, but still. Don't need to really be pushing the envelope that hard,
I don't think you should.
Especially when you're in a 900-pound bagger, that's a big
point.
fucking bike.
And with a passenger.
Yeah.
Completely different. Are your helmets, do you have Bluetooth helmets?
No, not right now, but we're going to hook them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's usually, so I actually have Apple CarPlay on my Indian. So I have to have the Bluetooth connected to the bike because I can put voice commands to the I can call people from my helmet and shit.
Interesting.
Which I don't do that, but
when I'm on the bike, I don't want to talk to
leave
anybody.
me the fuck alone. I'm trying to stay alive right now. You know. I mean, especially your brother's been riding forever. Nick's been riding forever, and those were the only 3 bikes. So it's like, we're pushing the envelope. You know, like we're getting after it. You know, Nick slowed down a little bit since his crash last year, but like we rode up to Ham Station, which is he crashed on our way back from Ham Station last year, so he was definitely saw him dropping back a little bit. But there was like water on the road and stuff like that because we were riding through ice tunnels to get up there. So. You know, being a little smarter this time around.
Yeah.
But
no, I don't know. No, there's nothing wrong with slowing it down just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's better to have the bike at the end of the season and not be covered in scars.
I always enjoyed the slow ride because you get to see everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're not
hyper fixated on 2 turns ahead.
Right.
Yep.
And yeah, so I don't know. I enjoy the cruise more than the speed.
Right.
You know, most of the time, but yeah, you guys being up there Sunday was pretty busy.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised there were that many people up at VC.
Dude, VC's been a ghost town with the winter.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not as bad as Tahoe. But I mean, 2 weeks ago, we got 2 inches of snow overnight.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it's been a ghost town so much with this weather breaking and getting above 60 and the blue skies. Everybody's just getting out.
Yeah.
And VC is such a great drive-through pit stop.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah. There's good food, good bars. And, we stopped by Genoa Bar on the way back. Didn't even go in. It was such a fucking madhouse over there. There were so many fucking people, and I'm like, it's not even worth it.
Right.
So we ended up going to Dave and Wally's instead and swung in their bar. It's like a resort hot springs over there. It's on Foothill. Okay. But it's right up the road.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Genoa Bar was just packed.
Yeah. I was reminded Sunday of what it's like having conversations when you're not drinking and everybody else is.
Yeah.
I was like, and it wasn't you guys. It was everybody that was engaging with us, or you guys were. And I remember Matt was having this conversation with this lady who was just like, "Where you guys from? Gardnerville? Fucking hate Gardnerville."
Yeah, right.
And wanted to tell us her whole life story, and I'm just like,
"It's no matter what we said, she jumped in there and had some shit to say about it."
Me standing out there sober and alert, I heard the same story 3 fucking times within 2.5 minutes because every time somebody walked out, "Oh, you guys from Gardnerville? Fucking hate Gardnerville." I'm like, "Oh, this motherfucker right here."
So don't go there, bitch.
I was like, and then the whole time I'm like, why is Matt even engaging with this individual?
Right.
Like, why are you asking this human questions? Like,
well, then we started talking shit to her, and that was kind of funny. Like, we got a couple jabs in on it.
Yeah, I went inside. I'm like, I am completely sober, and I have no tolerance.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm fucking going back inside.
Yeah. Yeah. We weren't there for very long. We got on with it.
No, it was. Yeah. That's good. But it's just it was a reminding experience for me. Like when you hang out with people that are drinking and you're not.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
They're having fun. Don't ruin
Allegedly.
the fun. Jesus. So I was having a conversation yesterday about it was a consult, new client, leadership coaching, new industry, high performing business. And throughout the conversation, we recognized that he has a tendency to micromanage through fear of the unknown. And that was kind of a big identifier in our conversation. And then we started talking about standard operating procedures or systematic ways that the business runs, how the business is structured, what does transfer of information look like, what does communication look like. I discovered he has a really good culture. He's wanting to continue to grow and improve it. That way it improves the experience for the customers. But he has a good culture. He's got a really good team. I'm very familiar with the business. And we started talking about him as a leader and him identifying the flaws that he's wanting to correct in his own leadership style. And a couple things that he said. One was, it was really interesting. He said, I need to learn how to remove my emotion from my leadership. And I said, hold on. I said, wait a minute.
We're not going to remove it.
So I said, let's talk about that a little bit, because there is a significant difference between emotional discipline and emotional suppression. And this guy's very methodical. By the way, he kind of reminds me of Zach Doan.
Oh, okay.
When you're having a conversation with him,
He thinks before he speaks.
Yeah. And so when I said that, he got this look on his face, and then he got this curious look on his face. So we continued the conversation about that, and I talked about emotional intensity and how to do those things. So I know that's one area that he's really interested in working on.
I like that video you posted of the emotional intensity when you had Grant training. I was like, is he yelling at him? Does it mean it needs to be there, right? You can't remove the emotion.
You can't remove it.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to identify it, control it, discipline it, and use it when necessary. If you need to turn up the volume, I'm okay with that.
Especially in the trades.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the last places you're still allowed to yell at people.
So great. Yeah. So we were talking about that, and then he started talking about some of his he said, I fixate on the little things that we're doing wrong. For example, taking out the trash, or this particular thing or that particular thing, and I'll hyperfixate on that. And when I come in, he said, I immediately address it with my team. Why is this like this? How come we haven't, cleaned this? And he said, I don't want to be that way. Right. And this was the brilliance about this guy. And this is what I really appreciated about speaking with him. And then we're going to start working together.
Well, the fact he knew it was a problem.
He knows it's a problem. He's got a very good sense of awareness. He just wants the tools to be able to correct it and improve. So through the conversation of like the hyperfixation or the micromanaging through fear, the lack of emotional discipline, and so on and so forth, I asked him this question. I said, is your team working to create the result, or are they working to not disappoint you? And it was another one of those, like he's sat back in his chair, and we were smoking cigars, and he had his cigar, and he was staring at me, but he was looking through me because he was thinking.
Right.
And he said, I'm not sure. That's the conversation that I kind of wanted to dive into tonight with you, was that fine line of being able to set the expectation, support your team in a way that they can meet the expectation, but make sure that expectation is just to not disappoint you.
Yeah, because for one, you're going to run yourself ragged operating like that. I mean, we've all had the tendency of doing that, right? Like, you almost feel like in a leadership position that's your job, is to call out what's not being done right, But then once you dive into it, you get into it more, like the stuff we talk about on here, and you find out that that's not the best way to go about it. People don't operate well under that condition, right? Or not at their peak performance in that condition.
Right.
And it's hard to extract yourself from that sometimes, to realize that that's what a boss does. That's not what a leader does, right? To pick apart all the shit that's wrong and just walk past what was done right.
Yes. So I shared a story with him to kind of just exemplify the point and the impact that it has on the team. Matt was working in the HVAC company at this time. Him and his install partner were doing a new construction job, very high-end job, geo hybrid, like custom fucking everything. It was a beautiful job. And I remember showing up to the job midday. I walk down the stairs. The first thing that I see were furnace parts that are sitting on a brand new washer and dryer that had never been used. This house was 80% done. The appliances were moved in, and we didn't cover the washer and dryer. We didn't protect it in any way. We set these plastic parts and screws. It wasn't like we set a fucking blower motor on the top of this thing. So I noticed that. I walked directly to them and I said, "Hey guys," I said, who put the furnace parts on that brand new washer and dryer?" It was the first thing out of my mouth. Matt, he's like, "Oh fuck." He goes, "Dude, when I did it, I knew I shouldn't do it." He's like, "I knew I should have covered it." He said, "That's my bad." I said, "You guys, just make sure that we cover that. If we do stuff like that, protect, their property and so on." And I kind of looked around and I walked back out to the truck and I was getting ready to leave. And I had this revelation, like this fucking epiphany. And I was like, I just walked in to this beautiful custom job and picked out the one thing that they did wrong. And that was the conversation that I had with them. So I get out of my truck and I walk back over. They had just got into their box truck because it was lunchtime. And I walked over and I said, "Guys, I have to apologize. I realized that I just walked up to you and ignored everything that you had done. I didn't ask a single question about what was going on. I didn't recognize anything except the one thing that you did wrong, and that's what I decided to talk about." And it was really cool because Matt goes, "Dude," he said, "we were crushing it." He's like, "We felt good about the job. We knew you were coming. Everything was perfect." And he goes, "That really, it did. It took the wind out of ourselves because we thought that we had done all of these things right. And then you showed up on the job site." And he was like, "In the one little thing that we did wrong." He said, "So he's like, dude, it's awesome that you recognize that. And I appreciate you apologizing for it."
Right.
As a leader, when we do that, when we go out of our way to find people doing things wrong, the only thing that we're trying to do is make sure that we're not disappointed.
The focus is on negative.
Yes. And that's what dictates the conversation. That's what dictates the quality of communication. It's what dictates the environment, the culture.
Well, like in another example of that would be like, if the guys are building something and, we've talked about that before, give them point A, point B, time frame to get it done in and fucking go, right? And then they go do it, and then you're like, well, that's not the way I would have done it. It's like,
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that, a little bit. And because I think it's a really good example of, understanding delegation. So let's clarify what delegation really is and what it's not. Delegation is not task assignment, which is how people treat delegation.
Right.
Okay. They treat delegation. So, I'm going to delegate this to Nate. And then they assign you a task. Probably going to give you some broken expectation. They're most likely going to tell you how to do it and when it needs to be done, and then let you go off with no empowerment, no authority, no decision-making skills. And then just get it done, right? Here's the thing, don't disappoint me.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how a lot of people treat delegation. What delegation really is empowering your people with the opportunity to take ownership of the task and of the result. That's what delegation really is. If I delegate you something, I'm really saying, here, I want you to take control of this, the process, the result. You know what the expectation is, whether it's time constraints or quality, or that's part of the point A to point B. Walk me through your plan process. But to truly understand delegation, you have to empower those people to make decisions, fail, solve, move forward, and generate the result that you want.
Right.
And if I do that and I delegate that to you, you and I, we meet at the end and examine the result. The result is what we agreed on, what the expectation is, but I say that's not how I would have done it. That means I didn't delegate in understanding what delegation is, and two, The real result that I was looking for was for you to not disappoint me.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds stupid when you say it out loud.
Right. Yeah, but we've all done it. We all get caught up in it, and
absolutely.
I mean, we all look at these businesses as an extension of who we are personally, right? And good, we should take that level of pride in what gets done, but trust your fucking people to do their goddamn job. That's what you hired them for, right? And when you take that away from them, you kind of take away their flair, like they don't feel invested in it, like they don't feel like it's their job anymore.
Yeah. That was a point.
Not flair like isn't working at TGI Fridays or some shit with goofy little badges and mozzarella sticks,
You are Flair.
I know.
Yeah.
Hey. I am the Flair.
You are definitely Flair of my day.
Mostly in your ass.
What?
And the pain in your ass, Josh.
Oh, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Oh, no.
Derail.
All right. Way to go.
Stay on your side of the table.
You made it weird.
Until I get my pants off. That was a point that came up in my conversation with this gentleman. And I said, so I asked him, I said, are you limiting the operating capacity of your team?
Mm-hmm.
And you are if you're not allowing them to perform.
Right.
Right. If you're micromanaging, if you're not delegating correctly, you're not communicating the expectation, and you're not supporting them in making decisions to generate that result, you are limiting their ability, because that's what happens when you operate in a way to not disappoint as opposed to achieve the best result.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm operating in a capacity where I'm just trying to achieve approval or trying to make sure that I'm not disappointing the boss, that completely takes and limits my operating ability to do what I do best.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to say, well, that's not how I would have done it, this is the result, then that means I can't do it in the way that I need to do it.
Right.
That best complements me, my skill set, my experience, my performance, because I'm just worried about not disappointing you.
Right.
And so that's, I asked him that question. I said, well, is your leadership style, is your managing, are you limiting your other leaders and your people? Are you limiting their capacity?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think because when you start to do this well, right? Like when you start to lead well, and you realize how much shit comes off of your plate because of that, it's almost instinctual that like this lack of things to do, you feel like you're no longer in control of your business, right? You feel like somebody else is running the ship. And yes, they are running the fucking ship, right? They fucking should be. That's why they're there. So you can go do things out in front and do other shit. Like it's because those tasks that you were so accustomed to are no longer on your plate anymore. You feel like your job is being taken away, right?
Yes. And you do have this sense of kind of being lost, because not only is your job being taken away or the tasks that you are normally in control of being delegated correctly, that is also doing those things is a significant part of your identity. Mm-hmm. You're the problem solver. Right. And so another question, it was a great conversation.
So now you almost make up problems. You're making up problems.
Yes. Yeah. You make up things to do. Hold on. I got a fucking brain fart. Because I had another smoke to replace these headphones. This was another question I asked him. I said, do you think that you have to have all of the answers? He said, yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. He said, I feel like I need to be the one to have the answers and make the decisions. Mm-hmm. Back to limiting the operating capacity of your team, right? Mm-hmm. Why in the fuck would they make a decision if they're dependent on you to make a decision?
Or they know that you're not going to like whatever decision they make. Yeah.
So how do you get your team to understand what the expectations are, whether that's performance, whether that's quality of the product, whether that's just the operating standard? That's the questions that you kind of need to be asking as a leader and saying, okay, does my team really understand what I mean? What is my perception of quality? And that's a big thing to dive into with your team. Something I experienced on significantly different levels with the HVAC company was people's perception of quality. Mm-hmm. And, I had one installer that I would beat my head against this table because I'm like, how is that excellent?
Yeah, your end result. Wow, like how did it come out like this?
Yeah. And then on the other end, I had guys like Matt, guys like Chad, who are just fucking above and beyond.
They fucking get it.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I don't even have to question,
right?
But what the quality is. So you have to be able, as a leader, you have to be able to communicate that standard and that quality expectation. But that's not a one and done conversation. Mm-hmm. You have to train your team. You have to equip your team. You have to empower them to fail and make mistakes so they can build that muscle memory. They can develop that skill set to achieve that quality and that standard.
Yeah. I mean, where the fuck do you think you got it from? You fucked a bunch of shit up along the way.
That was something I told my team one time because they would call and they'd be like, hey, I burnt this motor up, or I fucked this up, or I broke this, or stepped through a ceiling, or whatever. And it was interesting because natural reaction is to expect people to be pissed, right? And freak out and yell and I fucking not doing this right. And I never behaved that way, but I also told them, I will never chew your ass for doing something that I have done.
So you never chewed anybody's ass?
I didn't. And I told him that. I said, you guys aren't even close
to my level of fuck up.
Yes. Yeah. I almost killed a guy one time on accident.
No, oh, thank God for clarifying with the accident part.
Yeah. I did, and that's a conversation for another time. Mm-hmm. But I did. I made a decision, and the result of it was this guy almost died. So my level of fuck up's pretty high. Mm-hmm. I and that was something I give my team permission to do was make mistakes.
Right. Just fix them, please.
Learn from them.
Yeah.
One of the staple rules or expectations that I had was, and I'm going to articulate it to you exactly as I articulated it to them. Make a mistake, just own it. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out why the mistake happened. So we know if we need training, systems, resources, tooling.
Or if it was just a one-off thing.
You
step through a ceiling. Come on, you trip a little bit. And,
yeah. Slip off of a 3.5-inch rafter.
Yeah.
I said, just own it so we can solve it and then everyone can benefit from it. Mm-hmm. I'm all about it. You make the same mistake twice, I will eat your fucking face. Mm-hmm. And that's how that was my rule.
Right.
Okay.
That seems legit.
I give everyone permission to fail. Mm-hmm. And we failed gloriously.
Right.
But I mean, holy shit. You want to talk about expediting learning. When you have someone on your team who fails, and then you have the opportunity, they have now the opportunity to bring that back to everyone and go, hey, I did this and it did not work. Mm-hmm. This was the result. This is what I learned. This is what we're going to do to mitigate this for everyone else now. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. Gives everyone permission to learn and make mistakes.
Right.
But that particular style of leadership and those examples that were given, they were never working to keep from disappointing me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? They were working to achieve the best result.
Mm-hmm. A much better way to go through life, right?
Were there times, I mean, I remember guys were like, they were like, were there times I was disappointed?
Yeah.
100%.
Right. And I'm sure they didn't like it,
Yeah, they didn't. Mm-hmm. Disappointment's a really interesting leveraging emotion.
Yeah. I'm not mad, man. I'm just disappointed. It fucking hits way harder than just somebody coming out and motherfucking you,
Way harder. depending on the level of equity you have with that individual, the greater the equity,
that means a lot.
The greater the pain
right.
of disappointment. So I never leveraged disappointment to to manipulate. There were times I was disappointed. We had conversations about it. I'm trying to think. I don't think I never yelled at a single time, one single time. I got emotionally intense a couple times, and that's uncomfortable for everyone.
Yeah.
But it was like, this isn't about making me happy. This is about us generating the best result. Don't worry about fucking disappointing me. I'll get over it.
Right.
Right. If it's that bad, I'll fire you.
Right.
Like, I mean, if
I'm that disappointed,
if I'm that disappointed, like that conversation is going to be completely different. So, as him and I were navigating through these different examples, and in this conversation, that's kind of what I thought about that question. I thought about it a lot, and that was why I wanted to talk about it tonight. Is there a dichotomy there? I think it's a fine line. I think that, yes, ultimately some of the underlying results are going to be disappointment, like we're talking about. And that might be a byproduct of them not meeting the expectation.
Right.
Or the result, or not performing. But it can't be the reason. Right? That can't be what they're trying to achieve. It could be
the driving factor you try and instill in your team.
It's a difficult thing to recognize in yourself also.
Yeah.
Because if you're hiding behind the result and you're hiding behind the standard as a leader, then you're going to play the disappointment game.
Right. Well, then you're almost using it as a crutch instead of a tool, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, back to just being self-aware, as a leader, but also having enough trust in your team to ask hard questions. So this was one of the questions I helped him formulate yesterday, because one of his leaders, and I have met all of the leaders in this company prior to this conversation, which is actually what led us to this conversation with this client. I met one of them, and within 2 seconds, I knew that this gentleman was salt of the earth, over empathetic, and non-confrontational.
Ooh.
Great guy, but can be mistaken as a weak leader.
Right, right.
Okay?
It's easy for people to take advantage of somebody like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I told my client, and I used this individual, this leader on his team specifically, I said, all right, let's talk about him, because your leadership style is very abrasive, very direct. Obviously, you hyperfixate on some things, so on and so forth. I said, you have to give him permission to call you out. And I said, so here, he said, how in the fuck do I do that?
War room meetings.
I said, okay. I said, you need to have a conversation with him and just tell him, say, hey, I have an honest question for you. How many times do you think that I have been an asshole?
You personally?
No, I'm not asking you.
Oh, okay.
About me. That was the question.
I was like, every fucking day, Josh. Jesus.
That was the question.
What kind of a dumb question is that?
He's like, what?
Before we hit record?
April 25th. How many days have there this year gone by so far? No, I told him to ask that leader. I said, because your reaction is always going to put him in a state of non-confrontational reaction. So he's never going to express what he really thinks or feels or sees. He's just going to accept what it is that you say, and then he's going to interject that into what he's trying to accomplish so he doesn't disappoint you.
Yeah, so he's like looking through the prism of your eyes, but it doesn't line up with how he operates.
100%.
Which is that's a tough place to be in.
It creates so much internal stress and frustration for those individuals. So, I told him, I said, you ask him that question. Hey, how many times do you think, really, really think that I've been an asshole?
Well, as long as you're not going to be an asshole if I answer,
right.
Honestly, right?
And I said, so he's probably going to say, well, I don't know. I don't really think. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to call bullshit because I know that I've been an asshole. But I need you to tell me when I'm being an asshole, what is it that you see? I said, you have to instill that trust in him and then give him permission, not in front of everyone, obviously.
Just behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors where you can come in. You know, if I go out there and I lose my shit, we have to have enough trust, and you have to be able to come into my office after I go in and go, Nate, I don't think we handled that very well. You have to empower him. You have to give him permission to call you out when you're being a dick.
Yeah. And while you're in the midst of being a dick, it's not after you calm down. Like,
yeah.
They got to feel like they're equals with you when it comes to leadership, because when you look at that upper level, the upper echelon of leadership, you're equals trying to accomplish a fucking goal.
That's right.
The decisions you make are on different levels. And that's the hierarchy of leadership, but you're fucking equals when it comes to those conversations, right?
And also, you know, if the owner comes in and starts to have a difficult conversation with someone that's in that leader's team, that leader needs to be able to step up and go, you can talk to me about this, right? That leader's job is to have some sense of protection over their team, even if it's from the other leaders, because that's how you need to direct that communication.
Right.
Leaders need to be able to talk to leaders, just like you said, on a round table, right? Where everyone's equal. You know, you come over to my team and you start assaulting somebody on my team. I'm going to interject really fast. You need to fucking talk to me. You don't talk to my team like that. You fucking talk to me. You can yell and scream at me all you want.
Oh, dude, I ever catch any leadership from another company tearing one of my guys down, I'm going to fucking climb you like a tree.
Yep.
I'm gonna fuck you up. Like it's not gonna go well. And I'm gonna verbally assault you. You know, not physically, but verbally.
I have fired clients because of that.
Yelling at your team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, get fucking bent. You don't talk to our people like that.
We had a client that they built really high end pole barns and a lot of pole barn houses,
like barn dominium type shit.
Kind of that type of thing. And he decided he was going to lay into one of my install crews one day, and they called me. They were like, hey, this is going on. So I called him, had a conversation with him, and that was the last fucking job we did. And I have zero tolerance.
Yeah, because we can't operate like that.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and I told him, I said, you got a problem with something that my guys are doing, you fucking call me. You don't talk to my guys like that. Right. You call me. You and I will hash it out, and then I'll communicate with my guys. You don't fucking talk to my team that way.
You're not going to reprimand my team.
No.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
Exactly. Yeah. Right? Which also, you know, when you do that, it builds significant equity and trust with your team. You know, you stand up to a client.
Well, and it draws a line in the sand for the fucking client, too.
That's
it's
right.
like, go ahead. I mean, cross the line, dude. That's fine. And we'll fucking get on with it. We'll move along. We don't need this shit.
Nope. You think that whatever amount of money you fucking owe me is worth it? I'll walk up right now. And you know, not.
And I'm still going to get my money. Just so you know.
But not in the sense like you and I have talked about before, where it's like, fuck this, I'll drag up. I'm not talking about that.
No.
You know, I'm not talking about an ego-driven decision. I'm talking about, look, you're fuck around and find out. Like you're crossing a line.
If you're going to fuck up the environment and the culture that we have created as a team, nobody gets to cross that line.
Right.
You don't get to step in and fuck that up.
Yeah.
Because it's a lack of respect on your end, right? That you don't respect what we've built. You don't respect what we've done. And if that's how you have to communicate, well, communicate with somebody else like that.
What's interesting about that example is he was trying to tell my technicians how to do their job.
Now, why the fuck are we here? Do it yourself, motherfucker. Here's the parts. Marked up 20%.
Right.
Have at it.
It's like, wait a minute.
Now we're a distributor.
Our contract doesn't you don't get to dictate how we do this. We agreed on a result.
Right.
We're obviously communicating through as a big new construction project and so on, but you don't get to tell my guys how to do their job. You know, and they didn't like it, obviously. They're like, why is this fucking guy telling us how to do our job? Take care of it.
Right.
You do what we agreed on. If we got to change it, it's on me. I'll take care of the it wasn't even the client. It was the fucking contractor of the pole barns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was
you put pole barns together, dude. Calm down. It's a fucking kid.
He was the sales rep and kind of he acted a little. The GC and where I'm from and GC here is like two fucking planets.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird how operations change like that demographically, you know, like even geographically.
when I came here, I was blown away at how even residential construction works here. Mm-hmm. Because
I mean, the GCs they're not hands on a lot of the times. Like they sub everything out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of GCs. Like there's some of them. Some of the custom home builders have their own framing crews. Mm-hmm. Very few of them have their own masonry crews, like concrete guys and whatnot for stem walls. But I mean, most of it, like, you know, especially in the commercial world, there's not much hands-on shit that gets done by the GCs. They're almost project management, you know?
We didn't even have GCs especially in the residential world. There was
Who's the fucking ringleader of that circus then? Who's building the house?
The builder.
Oh, the builder.
The contractor. The building contractor acts as the GC.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And yeah, I mean, learning what I have over the last 3 years, there's definitely some significant benefits to a GC. Mm-hmm. There's also some benefits to the builder being the GC. Right. You know, I see it go both ways. I can tell you 100% of the time, the job would go sideways when the homeowner wanted to be the GC.
Oh yeah, no, thank you, dude. We've dealt on some, you know, like because we do deal with some residential market stuff where we bring in, or we'll go into somebody's house and they're renovating, want to put up new railings or whatever, dude. And like, engineers are the absolute worst people to work for. We won't do it. If we find out they're engineers, we'll find a reason to not go back to that job. And I'm sorry if you're an engineer and you're listening to this, but your people did this. So
hey, just learn how to communicate.
Yeah, don't tell people you're an engineer.
Right. Well, that's true too.
Yeah.
Oh man,
we'll know from your stupid little drawings you showed up with on your isometric paper. Get the fuck out of here.
You're having 3D printing of what I want built. Okay, get out.
3D rendering.
Get out. Yeah. Like this. Oh shit. But I thought it was a really interesting point, that him and I identified in our conversation.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before we started recording, like we find these little conversations pop up and like the monumental philosophy that comes behind it, you know, and it's like this stupid little shit that has such a huge impact, you know, like it's psychology at the end of the day.
Right.
You know, and, learning how to navigate that and use it to the benefit of everybody. Because at the end of the day, that's benefiting them just as much, if not more, than it is benefiting you when you have this conversation about, you know, the way that you are leading and what tactics you're using. And, you know, the negative driven shit is more manipulation than it is leadership. Right.
Yeah. And I like your point because it does need to be identified as negative driven. Mm-hmm. Right. If your leadership style is to create a team and a culture where they're producing in a way to not disappoint you, you are going to be hyper fixed on the negative, hyper focused. You're going to be looking at those things instead of removing yourself from the negative and interjecting yourself in a conversation to seek to understand.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about that a lot. Identify what's going on. Identify what has happened. Mm-hmm. Identify the decisions that they've made to get to where they are before you say, well, you guys fucking missed this over here.
Right. Well, and especially when you're dealing with a crew of like high performers, you have to find the dumbest little shit to call out on the negative scale, like you finding the stuff on top of the washer and dryer.
Right.
Like that is dumb shit compared to everything else they did all day, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you have to be looking for little shit.
Yeah,
in order to pick it apart.
And not only looking for it, but also be completely oblivious to my own behavior as to how I react and respond to the things that I find.
Right.
You know? And I think this really falls in line with leadership maturity. Mm-hmm. Because as you said in our conversation pre-recording, this was something that we've discovered recently. I just discovered it within the last couple of weeks, and then at least I discovered the concept of it, and then son of a bitch, it was a home run in a conversation that I had yesterday. It was literally one of the key elements as to what was happening with this guy's company. Mm-hmm. You know, so being able to discover that and realize that it's a piece of leadership. Mm-hmm. It's a piece of leadership style. It's a piece of psychology. And it's a piece of the leadership maturity.
Yeah, because I know that like sometimes we'll gain these new concepts, right? You know, and as we evolve, we're starting to analyze things more closely, and then it's like, oh, well, that's gonna fix like so many problems. It's like, well, hold on, like it's not a magic pill, right?
No, it's not gonna fix everything.
Yeah, but it's a great step in the right fucking direction.
I agree.
Yeah,
yeah, it's part of evolving the solution and the skill of leadership. It was just a really, really brilliant conversation, you know, with this gentleman, and I'm going to be working with him pretty intensely coming up, because that particular industry, and it's brilliant because you were sharing with me your experience, is a little bit faster paced, and the expectations are a little bit quicker, which I'm all for.
Right.
And I already know by his behavior, his expectations, how he's wanting to work together, that's how this process is going to go.
Right.
But what I know is to create an expedited expectation, you know, an expedited result, we got to be more specific. We can't generalize.
Right.
And this conversation is very specific. It's a very specific behavior trait of leadership.
Right, right. And being able to identify it's not simple. You know,
No,
like,
yeah,
it's because there could be, if you do point something negative out, you want to be like, well, fuck, am I doing that? Or maybe you just saw a piece of trash on the floor that needed to be fucking picked up. And you're like, hey, why is it out there? You know, but to say that you can't ever find something negative that's going on and call it out, you know, just don't use that as your main tactic to lead. That's not a tactic. That's just a, hey man, we need to fix this. Okay, cool.
Yep. I think that's a really, really good closing point.
Sweet. Okay, bye.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. It's 7:00.
God damn it. It's been a busy couple fucking weeks, man.
Dude.
We went from like stagnant to like
Are you
full
and
bore.
Matt, and I know you guys don't even live together, but are you guys going to be home for a weekend ever?
Fuck. Dude, so I'm going to go see a concert with Kat over there. Going to go see Tyler Childers and Charlie Crockett. And after that, I'm doing a month of not doing shit other than just business related shit and getting out, you know, and then I'm going to start coaching football at the end of May. I think May 22nd is our first practice or something. So
Gotcha.
I've got shit I got to do to brush myself up on what I'm teaching people, because I haven't been on a football field in 20 years or watched a football game in 10 years. I don't watch sports ball, you know, like I'm not a good spectator. I'm not doing this to evolve the game of football. I'm doing this to create men out of young boys. So
yeah. No, I'm excited to see where that goes, you know, with you in application of leadership in a completely different environment.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because they're almost your client and your subordinate simultaneously.
Right.
Like they don't have to be there, you know, like they.
But to me, practice is a brilliant example of controlled failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of good opportunity there.
Right. Well, and to just be able to apply what I know to that, because it's like I'll be the only coach out there that owns a business and is this involved in leadership as we are, you know, like I'll be really curious to see how that applies, you know, like how that engages with the kids, because the stupid little coaching thing they sent me through the NIAA or whatever, I'm just like, no, that's wrong. Well, that's wrong. Like, you know, like not all of it was wrong, but there's some shit in there that they harped on, and I'm like, that's very outdated. Like, you know, you're kind of taking the person out of the equation at this point,
removing the human factor.
Yeah.
Now it's gonna be fun.
I can't wait to tell you guys how much I fuck these kids up.
Dude, I know everyone listening is like, wait, he's gonna be in charge of
they're letting them around kids.
Oh man, you done?
I'm
done. You can find Nate on Instagram at NateNewton87. I am on Instagram at The Tradesman Experience. Email is thetradesmanexperience@gmail.com. Website's thetradesmanexperience.com, and the YouTube channel is The Tradesman Experience. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Get out there, get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.